Food in town, salmon, shrimp, mahi-mahi, great priced chicken products, whole birds, tenders, chicken breast, and wings. Waco Custom Marketplace with smoked items unique to Waco, house-made bacon, summer sausage, boudin, hot links, and German sausage. Every seasoning for every occasion, grilling, baking, or frying. Your hometown grocery store with canned goods, pasta, fresh baked bread, buns, chips, sauce, condiments to pickles, charcoal and lighter fluid, cold beer and wine, best kolaches in Waco, mouth-watering cinnamon rolls, and here for the community every single day, helping you avoid the long lines in crowded stores, serving quality products to the Waco community. Go online for the weekly value boxes. Family owned and operated Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We'll hear from Tom Herman on Dave Aranda momentarily, former college roommates. I'm sure that'll be part of the storyline this week as well. And Aranda had some interesting notes about Herman when they were at Cal Lutheran. I saw this last night, and this is who we are in 2020 with high school football. Groesbeck beat Kemp last night, 53-7. Malakoff shut out Fairfield, 55-0. Yes, that was Tuesday night. As some districts try to gain back a gain and, kind of shorten the schedule where you can play every 5 days. La Vega, I spoke with Don Hyde. We'll have him on in here a little bit. They're playing Friday against Heritage in Midlothian. They turn around, play Wednesday at Alvarado, and then they close out on a Monday night against Brownwood, and he sold that to his guys. Hey, it's the first time we've ever had Monday Night Football at La Vega. And so there's kind of some quirkiness in the schedule. I just saw another schedule that has some schools in that northeast Dallas and East Texas area that are going to a zone schedule like they did with the one that Midway and also Waco High are a part of. Before we get to Tom Herman, let's get to what's called Steve, and then Craig on the women's basketball preseason team, and then Tom Herman on Dave Aranda. Paul?
Yes, Steven from Virginia, thanks for your call. You're on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Hey, guys, I'm ready for this Texas game, and I think I'm more ready for it because of the chaos of Texas. I mean, we're a couple generations deep here in the Vaughn family at Baylor alumni, and so I have a distinct hatred of Texas and A&M, of course, and so I think, some men just want to watch the world burn, and I'd love to hear that Tom Herman didn't even get to fly on the plane back to Austin, and that's all I really have to say.
Well, the game is in Austin, so he's not going to board the plane, but I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, that's okay. It's a home game. But, yeah, he can't afford much more. No. He's already got that ship's got a lot of water on it, and he surely can't afford much more water on that in his boat. No question about it.
Nice Dark Knight quote for one. Yes, I think that you're right about some people wanting to watch the world burn, and I'm certainly interested in the flames that have started to kind of grow in Austin. That's quieted down now over the last few days, but that's simply because they haven't played. They haven't been around the media as much, and now they have been, and here's the deal. They're going to wear, uniforms that are different and kind of dumbed down in a way, as far as the details. They're getting back to their original all whites, basically. So what does that tell you? That is a red flag that they are scrambling, trying to find something to motivate them and something to kind of rally around. So the uniforms this weekend, I think, is a sign of that. They may have done it anyways, but I definitely think right now with the timing of kind of the infighting that's something that's more of a motivational tool. Herman's in the news for all the wrong reasons, and they can't afford to lose to Baylor. So if they do lose to Baylor on Saturday, I don't know that he's, not allowed on the team bus a la Lane Kiffin or pulled off the team bus a la Lane Kiffin, but certainly the forecast for his future in Austin is going to be shortened dramatically, I think, if they lose. So, yeah, if you're looking for chaos, then a win on Saturday for Baylor would certainly create that.
On the text line, the 2-5. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, he can't pull off the gimmicks anymore. I mean, he's going to run out of them. I mean, you're going to run out. I mean, it started with the P chart, and it's going to end with something.
Well, and how many times has it been, well, now we've got Keontae Ingram, and turns out he's not as great. Well, now we got Bijan Robinson, and he's been fine. But it's like, there's always this new recruit. Who's Jordan Whittington? We just need to get Jordan Whittington. Well, he can't stay healthy, clearly. His 2 years of his career, it's been mostly being hurt. So, you can recruit, but if those guys don't live up to expectations or they don't gel with the team or, you're just not recruiting guys who fit your system, then it doesn't matter. So they've used everything so far. They're pulling out the uniforms. We'll see if it works for them.
Football Bob will join us today. Remember, at 5:30 to kind of look ahead to the Texas game. We also will have the other guest, John Machota, on the Cowboys at 5 o'clock from theathletic.com. From the 254, Baylor looks slow and robotic and frankly boring in the West Virginia game until they decided, hey, we have a great quarterback, outstanding receivers. Let's be aggressive. I want to see that from the get-go. Lots of talent being wasted with this boring style of offense. That's from the 254. Charlie Brewer alluded that they got to start quickly. You always want to do that. And he brought that up. He goes, hey, it's on us. And he twice said it's on me to make sure that we do that. Make sure my guys are set. Make sure the offensive line is where they need to be. Make sure that we start quicker. And he took it on him. He said, hey, it's on me. He didn't do any rah-rah speech. He just said, it's up to me to make sure that happens. We'll have Tom Herman on Dave Aranda in just a second on is it difficult to go up against a former friend, not a former, they're very good friends, but in this game coming up for the first time as head coaches. Craig, just a real quick overview of the women and Lady Bears, as you can imagine, dominate the all Big 12 women's basketball team.
Yeah, so this came out today, and your preseason player of the year is, no surprise, Nalissa Smith, the forward out of San Antonio, junior. She is the Big 12 preseason player of the year, preseason newcomer of the year, transfer guard Dejanay Carrington, who we've, I believe, had on this show right around the time that she committed, and preseason freshman of the year, Irving guard Sarah Andrews, who is one of the big recruits that Baylor is bringing in. So they get the preseason player of the year, preseason newcomer of the year, and preseason freshman of the year with Smith, Carrington, and Andrews. And then
then Andrews went to MacArthur High School, which is a place that has been good to Baylor women's basketball.
And then on the rest of the preseason All Big 12 team, Queen Egbo, Dee Richards, and Alyssa Smith also on there as well. So 3 preseason All Big 12 selections in addition to the individual honors.
I got a problem with it. Nalissa Smith is unanimous. Queen Egbo, no. Okay, I can see that. How in the world is Dee Richards not unanimous all Big 12? She's been fantastic. Fantastic. I know she doesn't score much, 8 points, 5 rebounds. She does all. That's a player that should have been unanimous.
I think the stats probably jumped out at some people.
Well, then that coaches are that someone's not paying attention. She's the only one that scored under 10 points a game. She's capable when she needs to of scoring. When they need her to, she does. She is so much more valuable than points scored per game. And so she's not unanimous. I have a problem with that. All right, now, Tom Herman. Oh, men's basketball, they did announce they're going to have Auburn as their SEC crossover game on January 30th in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. Tom Herman and Dave Aranda both went to Cal Lutheran. We had Aranda yesterday talking about Herman and the fact that he was a guy that was always in the training room. He had ice on him. He's playing a lot. He played through pain. And he also talked about how he was kind of the guy on campus that was always having fun. That's not a surprise. Dave Aranda, meanwhile, this is Tom Herman on whether or not this game is difficult because they're such great friends and facing off on Saturday.
No, and the information I've heard is, Dave is not heavily involved in the day-to-day, game planning on both sides of the ball. As you guys well know, Larry Fedora is their offensive coordinator, and Larry was here with us and with me for a year and was awesome, provided a ton of value to our program. But the way I understand it, and I think Dave's doing it the right way, especially as a first-year head coach, there's going to be 1,001 things that are going to pull you away from the X's and O's. And so I know that he's got a ton of faith in Coach Roberts on defense. Coach Roberts was a mentor of his growing up in the profession, and he's got a ton of faith in Larry, which any head coach should and would. Larry's that good of a football coach. So I don't have a whole lot of tendencies on Dave, except I know at 5:30 in the morning to not call him because he's probably getting his yoga session in at from about 5:30 to 6. But other than that, we haven't talked a whole lot of football per se in the last few years. It's been a lot of strategy, a lot of leadership, a lot of team building. Dave's leaned, I don't want to say lean, Dave's called at times with questions that, having done this for now 6-7 years and Dave being in his first year. But in my opinion, he's doing a great job. I couldn't imagine being a first-year head coach having to go through a year like this, although with 7 new assistants and installing new schemes in all 3 phases, sometimes I do feel like a new head coach. But he's doing a good job of trusting his coordinators and leading his team, from what I understand.
All right, so that's Tom Herman on Dave Aranda. There's also a comment a little bit later on about any kind of memories he has of Dave Aranda as a player when he was at Cal Lutheran, but that's one of the connections as well. Here's a note: 35 days until the 2021 college basketball season officially begins. 35 days. It would normally begin in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it's
usually a game at the end of October, first week in November, but 35 days. That's why Scott Drew today was available. We'll have that today at 4, and that's why Kim and Players are available tomorrow, because the women's basketball preseason team came out.
Yeah, and Scott was typical Scott Drew. You know what? Like usually
full throttle, hair on fire.
Sometimes Zoom calls are pretty mundane, but I got to tell you, if Scott Drew, Baylor should sell. They should make money off this. Scott Drew does a Zoom call with your office to get people motivated. I don't know how you couldn't. He came in and part of it I thought like, oh, maybe he doesn't understand that everybody's muted, but he came in like, how we doing, like he always does. So we all unmuted. Hey, we're doing great, coach, just to keep some normalcy to it. I mean.
He's not. That's who he is. Mm-hmm. The only time that you and I have ever seen him where he wasn't completely full throttle was when they had the Perry Jones news that he had been declared ineligible right before they tipped off against Oklahoma in 2011 or whatever year it was in the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. That was it. That's the first time you ever see him. That doesn't mean he doesn't have that look when he's mad he lost the game. But he even after a loss, he comes in, and you can tell he's more down. But he is just an amazing full throttle personality. No question about it. All right, we'll hear from Shane Anderson of Connolly and also Don Hyde of La Vega here momentarily at 4 o'clock, a little from Scott Drew. Kirk Bowles of the Austin American-Statesman today at 5:15 on Texas. 5 o'clock, John Machota. 5:30, Football Bob, and much more. 3:38 is the time. And now 254-339-1122, the number to call. We heard from the 254. TJ's I'm a UT fan, but Herman is unbearable. I bet he was unbearable as a college kid.
I don't know. Aranda seemed to enjoy him, and Matt Rule didn't quite know him as a college kid, but they seem to have a pretty good relationship. So Herman's liked by what appears, a few of his cohorts there, but we also know that there's others. What's his name? Ryan Day. Yeah. No, not Ryan Day. That's the Ohio State head coach. Zach Smith. Had his issues, but yeah, I don't know. I've always thought Herman was a little strange, a little out there, but I'm too. So maybe we would actually get along quite well. I'm not sure. There's things he does that irks me, and the overall arrogance that he fits so well with UT. It's been kind of fun to not see him have that success that everybody thought was automatic, because don't let UT fans lie to you now. 3 years ago when they hired him, it was game over. I mean, that was the hire. They were going to go win national titles and this and that. Anybody trying to tell you otherwise right now is rewriting history, because there was a huge coup over getting him over LSU, and LSU goes on and wins the title 2 years later with Ed Orgeron. It's kind of funny how that worked out, and now where Herman's kind of being viewed, but I don't know. He seems It depends on who you ask, but I guess that's kind of the deal with everybody.
I actually have no doubt that he's probably interpersonally a pretty good guy. It's just that in the position he's in, he's got a personality that is he's on a dangerous, kind of tipping point with a university that is already high strung. They're already high strung. And then you add high strung to that, and it's either going to be one of those things that's perfect. Like he's the person who can navigate it. But I think, and I wrote about this on the website, that there are two guys that have ever been able to do it. Darryl Royal, who is friends with Willie Nelson. So you can't be high strung and be friends with Willie Nelson. And he has medicine for that anyway. But, and then Mac Brown, and they even wore that guy down. But Mac Brown, I could have called Mac Brown the other night after the UNC game, and he would have called us back and eventually and been like, hey, guys, how's it going? Yeah. He can deal with that. Tom Herman cannot let that stuff get to him, and I think that he would be probably very successful if he did focus on just being the coach at Texas, which is hard to do, and all those other things, and not let the noise get to him or not have to respond to everything that everybody says. I think it's what undid A-Rod in Major League Baseball is that A-Rod towards the end – when he started to get controversial and he wasn't liked anymore, he started to hear everything he would say. Okay, this guy wrote this about me in the New York Post. I'm going to call him tomorrow. Why do you have to call him? Like, he will come talk to you. Like, just don't worry about it. Go out and play. Just go out and do it. And those are the things that I think he's got to divorce himself from, and he'll be smooth, And I thought he was like that when Zach Smith was tweeting at him, and he was like, all right, whatever, hook him. That's great, but he probably shouldn't even respond to that.
He handled that actually pretty well.
Yeah,
what he did not handle well was the Missouri Bowl game and mocking, the quarterback along with Sam Ehlinger on the opposing sidelines. Like, as much fun as UT fans probably had with that at the time because, they're winning this game and whatever, and now it's feeling like, hey, this is a stepping stone towards us, rocketing upwards in college football. I think now you look at it and you're like, gosh, that was lame. That was stupid. That was lame. And they get everything that they deserve as a result of that. So, there's those moments of immaturity, and that's probably just still, some people don't ever mature all the way, and some people are just kind of goofy, and some people, he probably in that moment let the emotions get the best of him. But you got to remember, you're a head coach, you're live on camera, and that's a young man who you're coaching against. He was taking
a shot at a young player.
He was, and so you got to be smarter than that. Yeah. And so there's moments of brilliance, and we hear about how smart the guy actually is, like book smart he is, Mensa and all that. But I think there's little moments, like the mocking of the Missouri quarterback that you go, yeah, this guy's kind of a tool as well.
It was very immature for somebody that is running the program at the University of Texas or anywhere. And then, of course, the next year you had the Sam Ehlinger, and they were all pumped up. They had just beaten Georgia. You're excited. And we're back, and, of course, since that time they've been just above a 500 team. Thanks for all of you who responded yesterday on the thread about which player are you more interested or most interested in watching Saturday after the long delay for Baylor. Many different names, not just Charlie Brewer or whatever. A lot of different names. We appreciate that. Even Squirrel Williams came up. Even Gabe Hall came up. And John Mayers in the special teams came up among others, and we appreciate the feedback from that.
Squirrel Williams, really? People ask about him all the time. Yes. It'll happen when it happens, guys. It'll happen when it happens.
Well, it was all last year, and Craig, you answered that like almost weekly, and he just never was healthy. And then he did get in against Kansas. But Squirrel Williams or Josh Fleeks, one of those two need to contribute to this offense. Whoever it's going to be, I don't know, but those guys need to be a part of this offense to add another weapon that's outside of just the passing game.
Well, I think there's been a lot of judgments made about this offense already after just a couple of showings, and I can understand why you weren't maybe over the moon after Kansas, because that was a game that was primarily dominated by good defense and really good special teams in the return game with Ebner's 2 scores, but good enough on offense to do what they needed to do. And then obviously, as we've talked about ad nauseum, not a good showing against West Virginia. I think we've made that very clear at this point, as is everybody who's talked about that game for the last 3 weeks now. But I'll go back to what I said when Matt Rule was here as well. There was a lot of criticism over Jeff Nixon, but at times I would say, and people would say to me in response, oh, it's just a homer, what, you cannot say anything. My whole point was, Jeff Nixon can call whatever plays you like, but ultimately guys have to block, guys have to catch the football, and guys have to make plays on their own. It can't just be the perfect call every time, and if it's not, then you don't execute or ever gain any forward momentum. No, players have to make plays. Players did not make a lot of plays against West Virginia, And so they're going to have to do that against Texas. They're going to have to do that against pretty much everybody left on the schedule because there's no gimmies left on the schedule. There's no Kansas remaining anymore. So, yeah, Josh Fleeks or Yusuf Terry eventually or whoever needs to step up, Squirrel Williams, and make plays. If you get the opportunity, catch the football and then do something with it. But if you drop the ball the one time it's thrown to you, then you can't really complain about not getting the ball thrown to you.
I agree.
So I think it's, you can point at one thing or another, but it's everything involved in the offense.
I agree. Someone has to step forward. It doesn't have to always be the quarterback, but he has to play better as well. When we come back, high school football, Connolly and La Vega, we focus in on them. Also today, we'll hear from Scott Drew just after 4 o'clock. And then also today we'll still have the regular standard, what we do on Wednesdays, including the possibility of hearing what Kirk Bowles has to say about Tom Herman, Texas, and where they are. That's at 5:15 in between John Machota and also Football Bob. First of all, we've got our staff of 1,000. We've had CJ's gone. He's on the disabled list this week. So Jack is back. Armstrong is back. And Paul?
And Drake.
Drake is back. It's great to have. I'm telling you, the crew we have is amazing. Sleep-deprived Drake. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Ideal MRI, Dr. Rob Maxey. And Ideal MRI, what they do is help you save money, but they give you the best when it comes to state-of-the-art technology for an MRI. The location in the Central Texas marketplace. Set up the appointment. That's easy. You make a call, you go online. And then when you get there, there's not this long, lingering wait before you get a chance to go and have something checked that may be more than just a bump or a bruise or whatever it might be, that something's ripped, torn, or broken. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace can save you a ton of money because MRIs on average about $1,100, which means you might have some that are well above that. And they're going to do that for you every single time for $497 or less at Ideal MRI. And the MRI machine is no different than anyone else. It is a monster. Kind of always reminds me of a Star Trek or whatever it is, that big, huge machine, that thing that beams in the middle, that the engine. It is a monster. It is beautiful and it's state-of-the-art. And my experience inside their MRI machine was as low maintenance as anything I've ever done when it comes to an MRI, and I've had a handful of them. You'll be told by the Texan specialist what to expect before you get in there. They monitor and make sure you're comfortable from the time you go inside that MRI machine until the time you're done. And then you'll get a call from a doctor who will read what happened, what they saw, what you need to know, and then also share it with you so you can share it with your doctor. And all doctors know about Ideal MRI. So if you're asked to get an MRI, ask your doctor about idealmri.com.
Listen, in the past couple of years, we've had a lot of people moving in from out of state to Waco thanks to Chipper and JoJo. And while we welcome these new citizens, they unfortunately brought some of their bad habits with them. Hi, Jay here from Pickup Outfitters, and you know what I'm talking about. Naked trucks. You'd think everyone moved here from McNewtville, but we shouldn't judge them, we should help them. For example, when you see a recent transplant truck from a less civilized state like California, instead of saying, "Your truck is disgusting, your bed is exposed, get a bed cover on that truck, buddy," that's a bit harsh. Instead, try something like, in Texas, it's not polite to drive around with your bed exposed. Maybe you should check out the excellent selection of bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And then if they refuse, you can say, "Well, I hear New Mexico's a nice state." Let's help our new neighbors and let them know that truck nudity is not okay. Let them know about Pickup Outfitters of Waco and send them to our website, createacommotion.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas. They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trust, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance in McLennan County takes pride in backing Central Texas football. Our agents would like to help with your insurance needs. Call 254-772-8090 for an agent near you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Bird Culture Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culture Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culture Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new, pre-owned Bird Culture Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership. Online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culture Ford.
Hi, this is Conley football coach Shane Anderson. I'm a proud listener and supporter of the all-new Sikkim 365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This segment with Connolly Cadets football coach Shane Anderson is sponsored by Masonic Construction, Sturdy Steel, American Bank, Graham Properties, Richard Carr Motors, Parsons Roofing, First Central Credit Union, Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine.
Back on track, a win and a dominant win, and you jumped all over Gerald and now Gatesville. And now with what happened between Salado and China Spring, that district championship carrot is not there, realistically. Focused now on getting the best seed and moving on?
Yeah, we talked to our kids immediately after the game. Hey, China Spring just lost to Salado. That means in 2 weeks, we go take care of business this week against Gatesville. That means in 2 weeks we'll be playing for second and third place. And, we've looked at potential brackets and potential opponents. And I think, the route you want to go is second place. And our kids understand that. And so does the China Spring kids. And so, we'll see. Like I said, we got Gatesville at home this week, and it's senior night. And, we're 4-1 against those guys. And, been fortunate to, beat them every time we played them at home, so we got to keep that streak going.
It's senior night, which is something you reflect back on, and of course there's opportunities. You might still have another home game down the road if you get in the postseason, but this senior class, I know last year's team set the standard at 12-1 compared to 1990. They had the best year. What about this senior class? Have they done what you've expected them to do? Because I know there's been some bumps in the road.
Yeah, they're a super special class, and you got to look back, and those kids that are 3-year lettermen, they were 8-4, practiced on Thanksgiving first time since 1990. Then 12-1 as juniors, and then now this year, right now, I think we're 4-3. We've clinched a playoff spot, so. The last 3 years, this senior class has been in the playoffs, and that's a big deal. The last time that happened here at Connolly was in 03, 04, and 05. So it's been a while, and these kids have done that, and now it's time to, win these next two, get the best seed we can get, and then make a run and try to get back to that Thanksgiving Day practice.
Does your team understand that when they are smart and when they are focused, how good they might be able to be?
Yeah, I think they do. I think it's just, I'm not an excuse maker by no means, and I've never been an excuse maker, not even as an assistant coach or even as a player. But these are some trying times as far as the focus and the structure of every day with the remote and non-remote and. Coming to school, not coming to school, shutting down, opening back up. I mean, there's a lot of things that, and it's hard to keep kids focused. But, the thing we keep reverting back to is our 3 losses, in non-district, the loss to La Vega by 3. Their Division I opponent, they're going to win their district, and they're going to play, probably in the fourth round of the playoffs, if not further. Springtown, they're going to finish 9-1. They're Division I. They're going to win their district. They're going to probably play in the semifinals again. And then you go to Salado, who's now 7-1 and going to win our district. And so we lost by 3, 10, and 5. And 2 of those are Division I opponents. I don't think that's anything to hang our hat on, or hang our head about. And I just think that our kids understand we've played, and I think those games will benefit us, at some point in time. It may be, this week, it may be next week at China Spring, or it may be, in the third or fourth round of the playoffs. And so that's where we're at.
Hi, this is La Vega head football coach Don Hyde, and you're listening to Sikkim 365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke. This is your home for the best high school football coverage in Texas.
This segment with La Vega Pirates football coach Don Hyde is sponsored by American Bank, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine.
Don, you've had yet another layoff. It's part of, kind of 2020, but Heritage, a team that scored a lot of points, pretty good football team, and they've played some good people. Their losses are good people, a couple of wins against good people. Your thoughts about what you see from them on film?
Heritage is a really good football team. They're very well coached. Coach Wigginton does a fabulous job up there with the kids. He has, and they're good up front on both sides of the ball. They got good skill kids. The quarterback's good distributing the ball, and they do a great job with RPOs and holding you accountable to make sure you defend the whole field. And at the same time, they do a great job of getting off blocks and making plays on the defense side. So, once again, like it's been all year long, we're going to face a really good football team, and it's all going to depend on how well we play.
Was the off week from not playing any different than the other ones you've had to experience this year? Did you get a lot accomplished, in your opinion?
Anytime you don't play, it's not very fun for kids. Kids come out and practice for one reason. They really want to play football, and they were on Friday night. And so, at the same time, they understand that the circumstances are a little different this year than what they normally are. And so, we try to do our best to get a good balance between pushing them hard and at the same time understanding that we don't have a game that week. And so, we're able to do some things normally that we don't do in a game week setting. So, it's a balancing act, and you got to do the best you can to make sure you balance it the right way.
La Vega Don Hyde with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Now, your schedule is kind of back on track, and yet you're playing every 5 days. And there are some that are playing Monday nights, some teams that are playing Tuesday nights. It's kind of like the NFL's even gone to Tuesday night. How do you juggle that, and how does that affect your preparation, or are you just the fact that you're playing games better than having to worry about your practice schedule?
I think our kids are excited, I told our kids when all this happened that they'll be the first team in La Vega high school history to play Monday night football here at Willie Williams Stadium. And so, I think there's some things that you can get some excitement out of them. And, they're also excited about the fact that the sooner you play, the less you practice, And, that's what kids want to do. They want to play football. I think the burden falls on the coaching staff and, in preparation and making sure that you got everything ready to go in a shorter period of time, and you got to speed up the entire process. So normally where you might have a game plan meeting on a Monday and make sure you got everything in that you want in, and it's kind of more or less a line up and figure it out type situation and build into the faster aspect of football. Now you got to speed up that process. So, we'll probably have game plan meeting on Zoom so we don't have to do it when they get here and just speed it all up.
Central Texas traditions run deep, all the way to the vehicles we drive. That's why folks trust Alan Samuels. During Alan Samuels Jeep Adventure Days, get employee pricing for all on new 2020 Gladiator Sport and no payments for 90 days. Plus, the tougher-than-nails 2020 Jeep Renegade, 0 for 72, no payments for 90 days, or up to $6,250 in cash and subprime offers. Trusted. That's Alan Samuels, your friend in the car business.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Have you tried a do-it-yourself program to lose weight? You may not know that in a typical do-it-yourself program, a quarter of the weight you lose is due to muscle breakdown and loss. With COVID harming obese and overweight patients, being at ideal body weight is more important now than ever. Over 30 physicians in Central Texas, tired of seeing patients fail at losing weight themselves, opened Muscle-Wise Nutrition. This is a coach-managed weight loss program that targets fat and spares muscle. The 4 Muscle-Wise locations have taken off over 19,000 pounds from Texas dieters in the last few years. The combination of coaching and weekly body composition analysis to target the fat loss are the keys to success. The coaches teach you how to eat and live a healthy lifestyle. Email Sikkim365 at musclewisenutrition.com today, and the coaches will contact you about their free educational seminars. Do not wait. Email today and start MuscleWise at Sikkim365 at musclewisenutrition.com.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Charlie escapes another longhorn and brought down at the 38-yard line. That's a first down.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, this 4 o'clock hour, we have tried to give you more than just the football today, but a lot of it is football. The Baylor players met with the media via Zoom. Jalen Petry, Charlie Brewer, Ben Sims, the tight end who's caught a touchdown. I thought when that play broke so freely that, okay, here we go. They're going to win the game. And then, of course, we know they eventually lost the game in double overtime. He was as wide open as they throw the ball to the tight end 3 or 4 times a year with Bryles, right?
Yeah.
Matt Rule always discussed how they were going to throw the ball to the tight end, but they really never got into that.
Well, they had to leave him into block so much. Yeah. It was almost as if, and they had one. There was, I can't remember which game it was. They had Christoph Henley wide open for a touchdown one time and missed him. Might have been against Oklahoma, I want to say. But other than that, there were really no times when the tight end was out in a route because they had to leave him in a block all the time.
Yeah, and there was also a couple times they went to tight ends, and I believe Henley dropped him. So there were various reasons for why they didn't connect more. But they've had to be used as an extra blocker. It was always nice to hear Matt Rule talk about it, but it was much like Bryles. You talk about it in the preseason and then forget about it as the season went along. And then those guys weren't really major factors outside of a Jordan Iver on occasion. But the tight end position as a whole really hasn't been a major factor. I think a guy like Christoph Henley really benefits from that extra year because he's never been able to really recover that redshirt year. He needed to play right away because of the numbers they had. So good to see Ben Sims get involved. There's a lot of hype around him and what he can do with the football and as an option in the passing game. So hopefully that's something that's just a starter and not the last time we see him get in the end zone.
I even asked him if he walks around Baylor campus and he goes, what position you play? It's kind of like right now when you say you play fullback anywhere. Like, what's that? You don't see a lot of them. There's tight ends, and some of them are really, really good. And I love I love throwing the ball to the tight end. I like high school teams that do it. I love the college teams that do it, and also, of course, the NFL teams that do it as well. John Machota, by the way, on the Cowboys today at 5 o'clock. Did you guys know, I saw this, I just happened to see this on my timeline, a virtual groundbreaking is being initiated to kick off the Waco Suspension Bridge Rehab Project. The groundbreaking will be virtual tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning. The ceremony commemorating the start of the project and the 150th anniversary of the bridge. Isn't that right there?
Yeah.
Right across the street from us. So I don't know if that means that we're going to start getting bottled up with traffic. They start working on that.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of far away. Like, I don't know if they have to do it because it's just a walking bridge. So this is the bridge you drive over.
Well, according to the Waco Trib, it says some adjacent parkland will be off limits for 18 to 24 months. Fencing went up Monday. I just asked you guys about that yesterday. I said, where's that fencing been? And nobody seemed to know. So that was obviously something they put up this weekend to start working on the project right across the street. So, yeah, I would imagine there's going to be some sort of traffic cones or construction that's going on because this is going to take nearly 2 years to complete, apparently. But they're going to have a special on the Waco cable channel ceremony commemorating the 150th anniversary. And it says project will create closures to some parts of the Riverwalk on both banks, about half of Indian Spring Park, including the popular Longhorn statues. Some of those will be temporarily moved. University parks will also see occasional lane closures, so on and so forth. So, yeah, it's going to cause some issues of some sort.
Well, Baylor basketball, it starts working out, and of course they have been working out. The women tomorrow, we'll hear from Kim Mulkey and players. Today, it was Scott Drew. In a team that last year was national championship caliber, even though they slipped a little bit at the end, they went into the Big 12 tournament. Scott Drew felt like they had gotten everything kind of back under control. And then Kansas City shut down. Were they playing at enough of a level, even with the stumbles at the end, where they could have been a Final Four team?
I think
Any
so.
question at all?
No.
Yeah, I mean, just they were at such a high level. Now you add that, you lose Freddie Gillespie, of course, and that's a major loss. But you have Tristan Clark, who's a year healthier. Along with here comes a few others that have been just waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Flagler. A healthy Tristan Clark, you would think.
JTT.
JTT, because you can't say his name.
Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua is how you say his name. I've said that on here before. Don't act surprised, but Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua is how you say JTT's name, so I think most will probably just stick with JTT.
Yeah, he's amazing. The big, tall drink of water, right?
We think so. We haven't seen him play, but, I mean, we haven't seen what he's capable of. But, yeah, apparently, he's going to have a nice role on this team on the boards, blocking, and defensively in particular. So, obviously, more big men who can play defense and clean up the boards is always a good thing, and it certainly will be needed on this team.
He's got wingspan, which we know matters.
Yep.
They have L.J. Cryer, who is an incoming freshman from Morton Ranch, who's a player. Jordan Turner. They got all, these are new names. And on top of that, Zach Lovelady, the kid from a prep school in West Virginia. And then yet, if you look at it, they have all the others back. All of them back. Jared Butler, Mark Vital. Sometimes you even forget about him. He's kind of like their D.D. Richards. He doesn't score a lot of points, but he makes things happen. He's a bull in a china shop.
Yeah, I mean, Dane Dangerous coming in as well as it was their highest recruited freshman out of this class.
But the guys who are back, you've got Butler, Vital, you've got Matthew Mayer, Tristan Clark, Maceo Teague, and Davion Mitchell. I mean, them alone by themselves coming back, and Flo Thamba were loaded up. And now you have just more. And so the expectations are just insane. So, speaking of that, Scott Drew today met with the media via Zoom, and Paul asked him about, do you just have continuation of the success from last year, despite the shutdown, the delays, right into this year?
Hey, Coach, you mentioned that there's finality to last year, but is there at least a little bit of sense, since you've got so many people coming back, especially, 4 of your top 5 players and really like 6 of your top 8 played a lot last year, that this is maybe even a continuation of unfinished business that you didn't get to kind of show the world what you can do?
Well, it definitely does make it easier going into this year, knowing as a coach, you always want to see your players reach their goals and dreams. And still it was tough for O and Devontae and Freddie not getting a chance to do that. We have as you said, a lot of people coming back still, which makes it something of at least we get another swing at this, where some programs out there, when you lose half your team or 3 or 4 of your key starters, it is a different situation. With us, definitely going to miss the guys that are gone, but we return enough that I know they're excited to finish what we all started last year.
And with the non-con schedule, obviously you have a very experienced team. There can be a lot of pressure that comes with expectations, but because you're playing those big games and you've got these leaders, are you confident that no matter what happens, because you're playing some tough teams, that they'll be able to bounce back pretty quickly?
Well, definitely we wouldn't have made the schedule unless we thought our team had the potential to handle that, because whenever you play, I know at one point Andy Katz, I thought, had Illinois, Villanova, Gonzaga, Baylor as his number 1 seeds, and there's a chance, depending on who actually we play in the tournament and who Jimmy V finalizes and selects. But there's a chance we play 3 out of those 5 in the first 5 games. So all the number 1 seeds would compete. And again, we want to challenge our players, because last year they did a great job, and I know we had a lot of Tier 1 wins, second most behind Kansas, and our guys want to play against the best. They want to see where they stack up, and at the same time we want to see how we have to get better and where we need to improve. Normally coaches are always worried about losing confidence, and when you lose, no matter who you are, it does affect you. But with more veteran team, hopefully with success and adversity, we can handle both and be able to improve from both.
All right, so that's Scott Drew and the continuation. And you know what? We have seen teams loaded. Now, there's some of the blue bloods, and Baylor's now becoming closer and closer to that if they continue this kind of play that we've seen for the last little over a decade. But sometimes when you're loaded and you come back, it doesn't always mean you're successful. So that's why the coaches, like you mentioned, they're on them, believe me. Guys, don't read the headlines. Go play basketball. They were a very tight-knit group last year, and they usually are at Baylor. Mm-hmm. They have very rarely had anything that get away from them. That doesn't immediately mean that you're loaded enough to where you just kind of roll the balls out there and you're going to go 30-1.
Yeah, he even mentioned
that record.
He even mentioned later on in the press conference that you don't even know until the team gets going what you have. I mean, you can guess, but it's hard to do.
So that was him on the continuation. And then there's the experience factor. All the players they have coming back. They've been in these big games. They've been against the elite teams, and they've won most of those games recently. Here's Scott Drew.
No question. I think when last year you can gain a lot from that experience of 5 weeks being ranked number 1 and just the pressures and different stresses that are involved with that. At the same time, experience it can help you, but it doesn't guarantee success. So I know we'll have our own set of challenges like every year you do. And the big thing is when you return so many people, what made us successful has to continue. And sometimes from one year to the next year, you're more worried about maybe your stats or your numbers, and that affects the team. And what affects the team, in essence, always affects everybody individually. So making sure that we're all on the same page and have that same hunger and humility, play with the same joy we did last year. I say at the beginning of every year, you never know how injuries or COVID, now you throw COVID in there, will affect your season. You never know the chemistry of the team and the actual leadership of the team, because a lot of times those things aren't revealed until you're in stressful situations and you face adversity or great success to see how you handle both. And with us, we feel confident that we have the right pieces. But again, that's why you play the game. You never know, and it never guarantees success. So there's a lot of things we have left to finish and prove and accomplish. At the same time, we know that everybody's excited to always play a team ranked preseason 1, 2, or 3 in the country.
Their schedule is fantastic. I wish we could just go to every one of them. Home, neutral, or away. Every one of them is fantastic. I love their schedule. It's as good as I've ever seen.
Yeah, and they don't – we asked Scott about that when we had him on a couple times ago. I asked him about and he even said this, that because of COVID and the fact that they want to get in good games, there's no more of this, well, should we do this or should we do that? No, let's just play. Who is it? Okay, Gonzaga, yes, fine. Michigan State, fine. Whoever it is, fine. Let's play. Forget about everything else.
And as quickly as you can.
Yeah, let's get it done. Let's get the schedule done. He did mention on the Zoom today that they don't have the final schedule done completely. They're on about their 18th version of it, but they'll get to it.
Yeah, they've still managed to keep it loaded despite all the changes and all the cancellations and things. So, there's been a lot of excitement building up, and now the guys on the cover of the latest Dave Campbell's basketball magazine. I mean, they're going to be on the cover of a lot of different things when it comes to preseason basketball. So the expectations are there. It's up to them to live up to them, but certainly we're going to know a lot about them based on who they play because there are no real gimmies. So they're few and far between versus, the amount of teams that are going to, be able to run the floor with them. So this should be a fun season. The record may not reflect how good they even really are just because they're playing such difficult teams. So that's something to keep in mind. But if they do have a great record against this schedule, then that just will go to show you how good they really are. But certainly, number 2, pretty much every poll for a reason heading into this year.
And they play 1, right? And they seem to play like 3 and 4 and 5 or whoever else it is. We're going to take a break here. We'll go back to the phone lines and also the text line, 254-339-1122. Also, we're going to dial up a couple of more comments from Baylor football players, Jalen, Petry, and Charlie Brewer on the game, getting back to work, getting back to practice, getting back on the field, getting back into a schedule, a game against Texas. We'll come back with that as well. At 4:45, Olin Buchanan on A&M. They followed up the win with Florida, and they didn't blow a tire. They beat Mississippi State. We'll also hear from John Machota on what is the star in Frisco happening with the Cowboys. Plus, we'll also hear from Kirk Bowles on Texas as Baylor plays them Saturday. And then Football Bob will break down Baylor in Texas from what he's seen in that coming up again at 5:30 today. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. The kickoff savings event continues now at Richard Carr. All 2020 vehicles on their lot are priced to move now. Get it all. A smooth, quiet ride in a first-class interior matched with power and durability. The GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road, and during Richard Carr's kickoff savings event, qualified buyers will save $9,000 off a 2020 GMC Sierra at Richard Carr. The 3-row Buick Enclave is an amazing value in a luxury SUV during the kickoff savings event. All 2020 3-row Buick Enclaves are $10,000 off, or get the versatile and nimble Buick Encore for only $19,900. And maybe you're ready to step up to ultimate luxury and style in a Cadillac. We'll let Richard Carr bring the Cadillac experience to you with an XT4, XT5, or the full-size 7-passenger Cadillac XT6 and save $2,000, or find one of the best sedan values on the market with the exhilarating 2020 Cadillac CT4 sedan starting at $32,995. It's the kickoff savings event at Richard Carr. Score huge savings right now on all vehicles in stock. Go to richardcarr.com or come see the deals at Highway 6 in the Imperial Exit, or call and they will bring the test drive to you.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Carr has the trucks, man. They have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man. He has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Car, they have the truck for you.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
How often have you said it's time to get in shape? Every day, every week, every month, maybe for as long as you can remember? How about starting today? I promise if you'll just join Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness now, you'll thank me later. Hi, this is David Smoke, offering a variety of 40 group exercise classes every single week, including boot camp on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:15, plus spin, body shaping, Pilates, yoga, and bar. And there's a free kids club as well. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness open Monday through Thursday, 5 to 10, Friday, 5 to 8, Saturday and Sunday, 7 to 7, and personal trainers, Christy London and Randall Corley. World-class tennis facility with pros Britt Coleman and Joe Rosa with lessons, camps, and special events. Spacious and clean workout rooms, locker room for men and women, both with a whirlpool and sauna, and now there's touchless bottle filling stations. No intimidation, tremendous camaraderie, an entirely new atmosphere, and yes, you can do this, but you have to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
In case you did not see this last night, and I mentioned this earlier in the show today, Scott Casterline, who's an agent for Sam Tecklenburg, he had been a part of Carolina's practice squad. Remember, it was earlier this year he announced he was not going to play football. Matt Rule called him, convinced him to come practice, try out, made the team as a practice squad player. He's now part of the active roster. That goes from what is about, $8 or $10, $12,000 a week to prorated how long he stays on the roster for a minimum salary, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So good for Sam. It's a great story. He's been a part of this show many times. All right, now, did you see where Odell Beckham Jr. said he doesn't think COVID will enter his body? It's a mutual respect.
Well, it certainly won't on LSU's campus since he's now banned from there.
Yeah,
basically.
There's another story.
Yeah, look, if you're that confident that you can ward off a disease, go for it, buddy. Whatever works for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the dude talking. I mean, and, if he turns out to be right, then I guess he looks smart. But if he turns out to be wrong, I mean, I don't think anybody's really holding his feet to the fire. So that's just Odell talking.
To me, that means he's next because, Mullen wanted a packed house, right, at the gate Florida Stadium. And then the next couple of days later, he tests positive.
Yeah.
All right, so in Game 2 tonight, World Series, Rays and Dodgers, Mookie Betts was fantastic. Did you watch it, Craig?
I watched a little bit of it. Probably not as much as Paul did, but there wasn't, anything to keep me on the edge of my seat for the majority of the night. So that was pretty clear who the better team was. I hope that's not a foreshadowing of, how the rest of the series is going to go. And I do wonder, because I'm not somebody who picks a side and just no matter what, I stay on that side. I'm open-minded to just whatever makes the most sense, and there sure were a lot of people bashing on NFL ratings and bashing on NBA ratings, and for some reason not really talking about hockey ratings also being down, but bashing on NASCAR ratings. And I'm going to be very interested to see if they bash on MLB ratings because I don't know what those are going to be. But based on last night, I can't imagine they're going to be very good.
They actually had some good ratings the other night.
But
that
like,
was one.
If this is a one-sided series where it's just the Dodgers kicking the crap out of the Rays, I just don't think, one game, okay, fine. But if it turns into that way, the next game, then I'm afraid the World Series ratings are going to probably plummet as well.
You ever watch a sporting event that you don't really have a rooting interest in? And
well, I'm going to tell you right now.
Then it makes you so sad that you just go stand outside and look at the moon.
Here's what I want to let you know.
That happened to me last night.
Mookie Betts was 2 for 4, homered. He's just fantastic. He's the best player in baseball.
Made it solid plays in right field all night long. In fact, I got a text. Matt Izzetti sent me a text last night and said it just had the emoji of the monkey covering his ears. And it was after he hit the home run, which is when I walked outside, so I didn't hear it. But it was Joe Buck and John Smoltz going, what are the Red Sox thinking? Yeah. I was like, I ask myself that question 17 times a day.
Well, Mookie Betts, dynamic. Max Muncy, 2 for 2. Drove in a couple of runs, walked as well in the 8-3 win, the Dodgers Game 2 tonight at Globe Life Field. Now, back to Baylor football. Charlie Brewer, Jalen Petry, Ben Sims available to the media. One of the questions about Charlie is just, can this team, do they have enough time or have they had enough opportunities for them to improve on the offensive side of the football?
I think the main issue was, one, we had too many penalties, and that resulted in third and extra long, way more than we would like to be in. So that kind of limits, some things offensively that we can do. And that starts with me. I got to make sure our guys are ready to go. I need to be sharp and just kind of lead those guys and put ourselves in better positions to kind of open up the field a little more.
He again, a couple of different times today said I have to get better. I have to also make sure the offensive line is set. And part of that might be the lack of reps, the cohesiveness. They surely haven't had a lot of opportunities to work on that, but at least they have had some since the loss at West Virginia. All right, Jalen Petry. Well, Charlie Brewer is from Lake Travis. Ellinger was at Westlake. Charlie Brewer, his senior year, was as good a quarterback as I've ever seen, and that includes Garrett Gilbert, Reggie McNeil, Kyler Murray. Now, I'm not saying he was of good as them, but during that year, statistically he was phenomenal. We saw him twice that year, just crushed Midway. He was that good, dominant player. He's been good for Baylor. But Sam Ellinger, we know, is he their offense? Is he the Texas offense? Is it like, how much of a percentage do you think he is? 75% of what they do?
85.
Yeah, he's like 85%. I mean, look, again, we're basing it off of this year, so it's not ideal and it's not normal for anybody. I think we're all tired of saying that, but you do have to kind of preface it with that it's not like they've just played 6 games in a row like they would have typically by now and everything's been, as it should be. But from what we have seen, it's pretty much all Sam Ellinger. I mean, he's got big wide receivers, Joshua Moore and guys like that'll throw it up to the couple transfer receivers they brought in, I'm forgetting the white wide receiver from, I believe, like Oregon or whatever, and then I can't remember his name, I apologize. And there's another guy as well from Michigan, Tyreek Black is who I think they're thinking of. So they've got some guys who can make some catches, although they've, had their moments as well in a couple of losses. But the run games, I mean, there's talent, but it's not like it's super well designed and it's dominant and their offensive line's good enough to really enforce it on you. So a lot of their run game comes from Sam Ellinger, and it's him throwing the football or it's him typically keeping the football and running with it. Now, I imagine they'll get Ingram involved and Robinson involved and want to do some things differently with a couple of weeks to prepare. But I have confidence as Baylor defense, they're not going to let the run game go crazy, and they're going to make – if it was me, I'd make Sam Ellinger beat me through the air. That's what I would do. Yep. And I would not do the Oklahoma routine of – I wonder if the quarterback might run the football and not figure that out until the fourth quarter, OU.
I would have a spy on Sam.
Yeah, and that's what they did last year, I do believe, and he did pretty much all of nothing against them. So I think it'll be similar to that. So if they get beat offensively, I don't think it would be because of Ellinger. I think it would be because of him making some great throws or they finally do get that run game going with Bijan Robinson and Keontae Ingram and whoever else, the kid from the smaller school, their best running back actually, or their goal line running back, Roschon Johnson. There's who I'm trying to think of.
Okay, so Petry on Sam Ehlinger earlier today in the media session with Baylor football players.
I would just say always keeping your eyes on him. When you're rushing, being aware of where you're rushing, not getting too far afield, and staying in the hoop. Not creating lanes for him that'll make him stay in the pocket and have to throw the ball a lot more.
And then also just the UT offense in general. Baylor, of course, last year just tied them up. Other than Keontae Ingram on what was a run to just run out the clock at the end of the first half, went 69 yards or whatever it was, set up a cheap 3 points, Dicker kicked the field goal. Other than that, they had nothing. I think someone sent me a stat. You do understand that Texas had as many yards. Stop. That was like a boa constrictor against a rabbit. The way Baylor's defense tied up Texas. They had no chance. And the Ingram run was just like, what the hell's going on here? And they got a field goal out of it, but they had no chance. And Baylor sent a message, even though they gave up the cheap points at the end of the half after the long Ingram run, they came out in the third quarter, just dominated that game. Dominated that game. That was a 37-3 win. It was a 24-10 scoreboard.
Yeah.
That was a 37-3 type dominant.
Well, Devin Duvernay had a nice game on paper. He had like 10 catches and was 78 yards, but didn't score. Nobody else really did anything of substance for them as Ehlinger only threw for 200 yards. So, I mean, Duvernay's gone. He's with Baltimore now. He's not a problem that you have to worry about. And then rushing-wise, I mean, Ingram's 68-yarder was 68 of his 86 yards on the day. So he had 18 yards on 6 other carries. He only had 7 overall. They didn't really run him. They were playing from behind. Ehlinger was their bell cow. He had 19 carries last year, and that's what number I would want him to have again this year, especially if he's only running for 79 yards and no scores. So that would be a fine number for me if I'm Baylor, especially if nobody else is going all that crazy. Roschon Johnson had like 4 carries. It didn't matter. But Ehlinger threw it 37 times for only 200 yards, a pick, and no touchdowns. I mean, that they completely shut them down in every way, shape, and form. And anybody who's still making arguments about total yardage, like that is such an old, archaic.
It wasn't so much to defend them.
Okay, well, I'm just saying in general for anybody who still wants to be like, yeah, well, the defense, who cares about total yards? If it doesn't have a lot of points on the scoreboard, then total yardage does not matter. And even in that way, I mean, Texas had nearly 400 total yards last year. Did it seem like it?
No.
Did it seem to matter? No. So yardage doesn't really matter, but even then, they didn't have a whole lot of it last season.
All right, also Jalen Petry on the UT offense as they get ready for the game on Saturday.
I do think Texas's offense is very skilled, and they do a lot of great things well. But from our, standpoint of things, I think the most important thing is us just being tough, us, getting to the ball and putting our hat on it. So that's the biggest thing. And just running to the ball. If all 11 run to the ball, there might be a couple mistakes, but we're going to depend on our brothers to be right there to help us out. So, I mean, I would just say running to the ball and being tough when you get there is the biggest 2 things.
And then finally, the last time they played was a disappointing loss in Morgantown. It was. There were no fans there. It was an opportunity for Baylor, who's a better team. Although right now West Virginia is a better team. I'm not one of those a team loses. Oh, they're better. They lost the game. West Virginia played really well in the first half. Baylor's offense did nothing until towards the end. Even though, wasn't the game tied at halftime? Or was West Virginia up like by a field goal or whatever it was at halftime? It just seemed like they just never got into any kind of rhythm. And so you lost the game. It's been 3 weeks. Did Jalen Petry and the Baylor football team take that loss personally?
We took it real personal. We don't go into any week thinking that we're supposed to lose. So when we lose, it's definitely, a surprise. But just thinking about like the what's next standpoint, going back on that, like we can't dwell on that loss too much. And we try to, come in the next day after the loss and learn what we can from the tape. And just try to, improve from that. But from, I think it's just from a leadership standpoint, just getting everybody back on the right track and not letting us, fall victim to a loss. I think that's the biggest thing. And then, just getting better from it. So losses happen, and we're grateful for them too, but we definitely don't go into weeks trying to lose or thinking we're going to lose.
Well, they did, and I think that's why you saw Charlie Brewer's mood. He's never one that comes in there with bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, even after a win, because he's usually taking some hits. But I think they've had to deal with that for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, they're hearing about the same thing for 3 weeks. I mean, who would not get tired of hearing about that? And especially if it's a loss. I mean, I think even a great win, 3 weeks later, you're like, okay, but what's next already? And so, yeah, it's about what's next. That's one of the things that's carried over from the Matt Rule era. And I'm tired of hearing about West Virginia. I can only imagine how tired they are of hearing about West Virginia. It was not a season-wrecking loss. It was just their first loss, and they've had plenty of time to go over every aspect of that game with a fine-tooth and comb at this point, 100 times if they wanted to with all the time they've had away. So, I don't expect that to affect them in any way, and if it does, then this team's not the team that we think it is, because if they're letting 3 weeks ago matter, then they've got the wrong mindset.
And then back to Tom Herman, who had his press conferences, I guess it was Monday or Tuesday. We had the part when he discussed what, in fact, Dave Aranda, is it a weird deal because they're playing each other or going against each other? Aranda was asked Monday what his favorite memory of Herman was, and it was the fact that he walked into a women's basketball or volleyball game, and Herman was doing the PA, and then was dancing on a table, which you can go with that wherever. It was on the scoreboard, right? Scorer's table, but. And we know that Herman is one that kind of has fun, right? And then you can't see Aranda doing that. And that doesn't mean, and you could go with it however you want. But he was asked about his favorite memory of Dave Aranda when he was at Cal Lutheran. This is Tom Herman.
I don't think it's that rare. David Beatty was in this league. David Beatty is a close friend of mine that will be till the day one of us passes from this earth, and I consider Dave the same. I think it's really cool that 20% of the head coaches in the Big 12 are Cal Lu graduates. But my favorite memory of Dave, there wasn't a whole lot. If you guys remember the whole story, Dave got hurt early in his career and had to hang his cleats up. His shoulders kept popping out, and there wasn't a whole lot back then in the late 90s, mid 90s that could be done about it. So Dave very quickly transitioned into being a student coach, and I think all of us as players at the time knew that this guy was destined for greatness. But I do remember when Dave was still a player for the few weeks that he went through training camp, just watching film of some inside drill and just watching how hard he would hit our fullback or how hard he would hit a guard coming downhill. He was. I know his build now because he I don't know what he does. He gets up at like 2:45 in the morning and goes for a 4-mile run and then 3-mile bike ride and then does yoga and all that stuff. So he's very conscious. I don't know all of that to be fact. I'm kind of ribbing him here, but I'm sure he'll appreciate it. He may not look it right now, but man, could that guy hit. And that's the one thing I'll always remember about him as a player was the violence in which he played and the collisions that he delivered on ball carriers, blockers, you name it.
That's Tom Herman. We've heard from him a couple of different times on Dave Aranda. How about this story? We mentioned, Craig, you mentioned Odell Beckham. I didn't know exactly what it was. He was banned from the campus for 2 years. And it goes back to the NCAA championship game. Is that correct? The national championship game?
Yeah, you may remember him handing out money in front of full view of cameras after the game was over with to LSU players. So
They've lost 8 scholarships, I guess, over the next couple of years. But one of those was a booster. But you're talking about the Odell Beckham. I remember that scene.
Yeah, he was handing out money after the national championship game to LSU players. That's what it was.
Yeah, guys getting interviewed, and they'd walk off camera, and he'd be like, "Here's some money."
Yeah. So that's now what's being talked about here is the repercussions of him and doing that act.
Apparently, the loss of scholarships, the reductions, mean they'll have 81 scholarships or less the next 2 years. But that doesn't mean they'll lose any scholarships for the class of 2021 or 2022. They can still sign 25 players. It all depends because transfers and, portal, whatever, draft departures if somebody leaves early as well.
What you're leaving out is that these are all self-reported. These are punishments LSU is giving to itself. These are self-imposed penalties as a result of the Odell Beckham thing and the investigation into boosters like Odell Beckham giving money to players, football players in particular. That's self-imposed. That's them trying to not get hammered by the NCAA. And with the Beckham thing, it was on camera.
Video,
It's there. It's there to see, and everybody was talking about it after the game. I remember it very clearly. That was like trending right behind Joe Burrow, basically, was Odell Beckham handing out cash.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure he'll learn his lesson.
Yeah, no, absolutely, sure. Absolutely. But yeah, that's what it was, and they're going to lose scholarships. They're going to have a lessening of the number of recruiting visits that they can have, and the communication and phone calls. I guess they'll have to take some of that away as well. But this is them trying to be proactive and not get hammered by the NCAA. But as a result, the lead is that Odell Beckham's banned from LSU's, campus football stadium for the next 2 years. So that's his punishment, is that he cannot go be a part of LSU football, his alma mater, for a couple years. So if they were to play in the national title game, which they won't this year, but let's say they were, he wouldn't even be allowed to go unless probably as a spectator up in the stands. So that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, they acted on that pretty quickly since that happened, in January. Also, Pat Chambers stepping down as the head coach, men's basketball coach at Penn State. There was a story about him making reference to a noose to a student athlete. He's gone. He's already put up a statement. He's leaving. So he's out as the head coach. Didn't they make the tournament? Or no, was it the year before
what
that?
Tournament?
Because there was no tournament. It might have been the year before that.
And I want to say on LSU, it's not all the Odell Beckham thing, but that was like a cherry on top of their wider investigation already into improper benefits, and that was just kind of another thing that put it over the edge.
How much of that money you think was invested wisely by the players and not dumped right back into Bourbon Street an hour later?
Yeah, it was only apparent, and I say only because I could use 2 Gs, but I think most people would take 2 Gs and be good with it, but it was like 2 Gs for 4 players. So that was probably gone pretty quickly, I would think. Yeah. Even that's $500. Yeah, I would imagine maybe they went back to Baton Rouge with a couple $100 maybe, but I would imagine most of it after national title was spent.
There's a casino right next to the hotel they were staying at, so.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that was gone pretty quickly. Yeah.
Gondo.
Yep.
It's gone.
Gone.
What if they tripled it? Maybe they tripled
it.
Maybe
they did. Maybe they did.
The thing that's interesting about this past Chambers story, the Penn State men's basketball, is that now here's the clock running towards the games in 35 days. Remember the story that came out about Greg Marshall at Wichita State, and I have heard nothing since that time.
Yeah, I think that one
where that might be.
That one might linger a little bit because, again, Wichita State doesn't want to fire Greg Marshall, and if it's true,
they're going to have to.
It's not. Yeah, here's the thing: they don't want to fire him. And the thing about it, if all that stuff is true, then they've known about it for. It's not like Greg Marshall became a jerk all of a sudden. That didn't really happen. Look, the thing, kind of like Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight didn't all of a sudden become cantankerous and yell at people. He was doing that for years and then just took it a step too far.
When we come back, Olin Buchanan, A&M not only beat Florida 2 weeks ago, but they followed up. Sometimes when you have a game like that, the next time you blow a tire against whoever it might be, they took care of business. It's Starkville, Olin Buchanan. And then we'll have John Machota on the Cowboys from the Star in Frisco. We'll then hear from Kirk Bowles on Texas football and all that surrounds that program. And then at 5:30, Football Bob breaks down Baylor and Texas. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. I'm looking at a picture on their website of their glorious walk-in beer fridge. And if you're a fan of craft beer, they have it. You would not believe how much they have and the varieties they have. And you can just look at the picture and see all the different ones that they have. Some of them you've probably heard of, and then others you may not have. And if you're a craft beer fan, you're always looking for something that maybe you haven't tried or you haven't heard of. And then you scroll down on their website, the beers of the world, and there are so many listed. It would take me
the rest of the show to just read them all off to you. And look, at whatever you're looking for, whether it is spirits, beer, wine, they've got you covered. They've got a great staff with a lot of expertise. So if you're trying to pair something with a dinner or you're trying to get a gift for someone, they're great about that as well. And they've got their convenient drive-through window open. You drive up, you tell them what they want, they get it to you. It doesn't take long at all. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, a hidden gem in Waco, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco's newest gym, Halo Athletic Center, 5725 Bagby Avenue, right behind Region 12 and across the highway from the Central Texas Marketplace, where motivation, inspiration, and hard work are the driving force. State-of-the-art equipment, indoor and outdoor track, locker rooms, showers, yoga and bar classes by Duality Yoga, Bod Pod potty composition analysis, and registered dietitians, all under one roof, where we rise above. Come join the Halo Athletic Center and be a part of the change. Your change.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How can we help you? That's a question we ask every day at American Bank. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Our commitment to our customers is what drives us. It's why we've invested in new branch buildings and technology like ITMs that let you speak to a teller face-to-face from your car. It's why we work with local businesses, helping Waco grow and thrive. And it's why decisions about your accounts and loans are made here in Waco by people who know you. How can we help you? Find out at American Bank, member FDIC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Mon dumps it off underneath. There's Lane again. A lot of room to run. It's a foot race to the end zone. Touchdown, Texas A&M.
This segment with Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com is sponsored by Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. With over 40 group exercise classes Monday through Sunday on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
All right, here we go. This 4 o'clock hour, Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com, with us every single Wednesday. And Olin, I thought, there was a time back in the day, and I'm old, I can remember this, when Spike Dykes and Texas Tech would win a game or an upset and then lose the next week to North Texas. And I bring this up because it's one thing to beat a Florida or somebody else, but it's also important then to go win a game you're supposed to win. And how important was it just to validate, not so much the win against Florida, but just take care of business again?
I think it was very important. Like you said, you see teams pull off a big upset all the time. Last year, South Carolina beat Georgia and then went 1-5 the rest of the season. So, a big upset can happen, but a good team will get the big upset and then follow it up. And A&M went on the road to Starkville, where they've lost 3 consecutive games there, and never looked good. Always had better teams, and have lost, or at least what was considered better teams. So to go out there and win in Starkville after that win over Florida, I think it really turned some heads again.
Olin, do you have an idea? I mean, they're 3-1, and that's what they are, but they've had to play 4 very different games in the 4 games that they played. Do you kind of have a finger on who they are offensively and defensively, even though all the games have been a little bit different?
Well, I think they're becoming a team that, with the capability of being a power running team, I don't think they just want to be that. Losing Caleb Chapman, I think, left a hole in the offense. They just didn't have the big play over the top guy yet. But right now, I see them as being a power running team that they like to pass off of, even though they opened the game by, they ran the ball so well against Florida, and they opened the Mississippi State game throwing, and they had 2 unsuccessful drives, and they went to the run and just ran it, it seemed like whenever they wanted to against Mississippi State.
Olin, has the SEC, thanks to Arkansas and Kentucky and now A&M, already figured out Mike Leach?
I don't know. If you look at Mike Leach's history, as good as he's been, he hasn't been very good in the first year at Texas Tech or at Washington State. So I think it takes a little bit of time for him to get it going. I know the idea, at least for this year's team, is to, for the most part, rush 3, try to disguise it, bring some pressure here and there, but rush 3, drop 8, and make them throw in front of you and make sure they don't break tackles. And that's worked. Maybe, in the future when Mike gets a quarterback that he's more comfortable with, and maybe with some more talented receivers and offensive linemen, maybe his style will work. But, for now, it certainly looks like the way to play this Mississippi State team is just to try to keep the receivers in front of you and make the tackles.
I know that some of this was sacks, but I love it when I look at I love teams that can stop the run. I'm not sure if Mississippi State has run the ball well. I know that especially with Leach, they're going to depend on the quarterbacks to throw it a ton. But 20 carries for basically minus 2 yards. Now, some of that was sacks with Rodgers and Costello. In fact, it still would have been 20 carries for 34 yards or 32 yards. How impressive was that? And was that because Mississippi State just can't run the ball?
Well, we all know that that's not what they really want to do. And Kylan Hill, their best running back, didn't play. That said, they had a kid, Marks, that was a pretty highly recruited guy. He's a freshman. But, yeah, they didn't have their best guy out there. And again, that's not really what they want to do. That said, hey, if that's not what they want to do and you shut them down, well, that's what you're supposed to do. And then you don't have to apologize for the sacks because that is what they want to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought the front 7 played extremely well. The pass rush was there. DeMarvin Leal, I thought he had his best game as an Aggie. Aaron Hansford, the linebacker, had his best game as an Aggie. Buddy Johnson, the other linebacker, might have had his best game as an Aggie. So A&M was absolutely, I thought, dominant. On the I guess you'd call it front 6 because of the way they were playing.
A&M has the bye this week, but they have Arkansas, Ole Miss this week. I guess they both have the bye. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. But has your opinion about Arkansas changed at all in the last couple of weeks? And does that game is always crazy no matter how bad Arkansas has been? Does that change your ideas about what this was going to be going in?
Well, I've learned to just accept that it's probably going to be closer than it should be against Arkansas, right? I will say that Arkansas has surprised me. I think it surprised everybody. Didn't think they'd win any games, and they easily could be 3-1 at the same time. They easily could have lost that game last week too. I mean, think about it. Before their last pick six, Ole Miss had thrown 5 interceptions, had turned the ball over on downs inside the Arkansas 5 twice, and still had the ball with a chance to win at the end of the game. And they were throwing it, and they have a good running back, and it looks like you can run all day on Arkansas. They won. What was the other game? The other team, I'm trying to remember who they beat earlier, and I just know it was interceptions were a big part of that too. So it looks like their defense isn't that strong, but it is opportunistic. So it appears that if you take care of the football, sometimes A&M has an issue with that, especially when they're playing Arkansas. But it seems like if you take care of the football, then you should be okay. But that's the turnovers. Every coach always says, you've heard it a million times. The turnovers are the biggest indicator of which way the game's going to go. So I think when that game comes along next week, if A&M can take care of the ball, then I think they should be okay.
Olin, where do you think the biggest improvement will look to, or where we'll look to see the biggest improvement? I know Fisher's talked about, avoiding the poison out there in the media and what people are saying and all that, which they've apparently been doing a good job of. But as a team, where can they afford to improve before Arkansas?
Well, I think they may look really improved, and they probably need to be in the secondary. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a change in the starting lineup here and there. Felipe Frank's not a great quarterback, but it's not like he's incompetent. He can throw the football, and Arkansas has better receivers than you think. And I think A&M can handle them in the running game, but they're going to have to continue to play well in the secondary. So that would certainly be one answer to that. And the other one is, I think they're really going to be working hard in the open week to try to bolster that passing game. Maybe they'll have Damon Demas, the highly touted freshman. Maybe he'll have him ready. I've heard that Hez Jones, the senior receiver who's had injury problems but looked real good before he got hurt, I've heard that he may be ready to go next week. So right now, from the receiving corps, they're really leaning real heavily on Chase Lane now that Caleb Chapman is hurt. So they could really use somebody else to step forward and give them an alternate target for Kellen Mond.
I think Isaiah Spiller is special. I don't think that's like breaking news. He was fantastic in high school at Klein Collins. There's just something about him. I like what I see. He seems to have great speed, but he also seems to be able to run between the tackles. How special of a running back is Isaiah Spiller?
Yeah, I think he might be somebody really special. We knew he was good. The question was this year was how good, and we had heard, even though we didn't see him, we had heard that he had really dedicated himself in the off season to getting a little bit faster. He's not a blazer. He's fast enough, but he's not just that blazer. But he's fast enough and he's strong. And I saw the one play, you might have saw it if you saw the game. It was I think it was a third down carry, and it looked like he might get stopped by a defensive lineman at the line of scrimmage, but he just ran right through the guy's arms, and it ended up being like a 10-yard gain. And I think what you really see from him, at least I think what I'm seeing is, one of the things that's so impressive is when he's running downfield, he can change direction without slowing down. Maybe a lot of guys do it, but he sure does it effortlessly. And I think that strength to run through tackles, I think, is what really sets him apart. He seems to, you hear all the time that running backs have great vision, and I'm not exactly sure what that means. But he does seem to pick up the hole pretty well and then see where the tacklers are coming from as he tries to avoid them.
Anything else, Paul?
Nope.
Craig? Olin, thank you, man. Appreciate you every Wednesday at 4:45. Olin Buchanan with us, TexAgs.com. We appreciate the time. A&M has the week off, and then Arkansas, some of those games, especially the last decade, have been just phenomenal. All right, the 5 o'clock hour loaded up. We'll have John Machota. Frisco, of course, covers the Cowboys at the Star or wherever he possibly can. What a week it's already been for them since Monday night's disaster. Also, Kirk Bowles, Austin American Statesman on UT and what's happening down there, which has been rather interesting.
Which apparently the latest is the band will not perform on Saturday for UT as a internal survey revealed several of the members of the band would refuse to play the Eyes of Texas. So they are not going to have the band at all on Saturday because of this Eyes of Texas controversy.
So that eliminates that issue.
Yeah. Man.
Wait a minute. They refuse to play it now? Or?
UT's Longhorn Band will not perform at Saturday's game against Baylor after an internal survey revealed several members of the band would refuse to play the Eyes of Texas at the game. The band surveyed to find out if they would play the Eyes of Texas during the game, which, whatever. The school student-run newspaper obtained a message from the band director, Scott Hanna, who sent to the band members, so they got a message from him sent to the band members that said, results of the survey show we do not have the necessary instrumentation, so we will not participate in Saturday's game.
So that's kind of like the Big 12 protocol. You have to have at least 53 players in a certain position group. Okay.
I did band in high school. It is the least shocking thing that the kind of people who are in band are taking that stance.
All right,
That's
when we'll ask Kirk about that at 5:15. We'll have John Machota on the Cowboys week that's been tough next on Sikkim 365 Radio. Dr. Kent Petty, pettycliniclowt.com. He sent me a picture of the entrance into his studio or in his business yesterday that's got this in the background. Petty Clinic Low T, our studio. Of course, Ideal MRI is our title sponsor. Dr. Petty, special interest in helping you in being the high-performance man you want to be. Board certified in primary care, but also offering low T therapy, obstructive sleep apnea fix. Dr. Petty, special interested in testosterone replacement. One out of every three men, common and occurring low testosterone, fatigue, loss of energy, poor sexual performance, ED, loss of sexual interest, decreased muscle mass and strength, weight gain, depression, moodiness, poor sleeping, insomnia, and poor mental focus as well. If you have that or you think you do, Dr. Kent Petty can help you out. Contact them going to pettycliniclowt.com and give them a call. There's a place where it says call today. They'll set you up for blood work, get discounted rate for your blood work, tell them Smokey sent you, look at your testosterone levels, and if your testosterone levels are too low, he will put you in a program to help you become the high-performance man that you want to be and help cure, solve, or in some way make some of that better. You also have to watch what you do when it comes to sleep and exercise and diet and all of the above. But he can help you out with the testosterone level by putting you into a program, and you become the high-performance man you want to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Employee pricing is back at Allen Samuels, exclusively on the king of minivans, the new 2020 Chrysler Pacifica. Get employee pricing plus financing as low as 0% or employee pricing and up to $4,250 in cash. You get Pacifica loaded up with style, comfort, and options all in one gorgeous minivan. Employee pricing with special financing or cash. Choices are always great at your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
If you or a loved one or friend has been arrested and you can't afford bail, trust Terry and Chase Chapman at Chapman's Bail Bonds, covering Waco and McLennan County for over 25 years. Chapman's can bail you out anywhere with experienced, knowledgeable local agents who are committed to serving you professionally, respectfully, and with the highest integrity. Chapman's understands your privacy is important. Your freedom can be secured fast when you use Chapman's Bail Bonds. Open 24 hours a day. Payment arrangements available. Call Chapman's Bail Bonds. When you need help, 254-754-1603. When you ring, we'll spring.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and Best in Metal, Steel, and Pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Here's Dalton. Under some pressure, shovels it forward, and Zeke fumbles the football. I think Jordan Phillips came up with the football for Arizona.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Want to make sure as we start this 5 o'clock hour on this Wednesday afternoon and evening that we have so many people behind the scenes. You know, you see us, Craig and Paul and me, and on occasion you'll also see others as well. But what we have, really an unbelievably talented group that help us sound better and somehow look better. And what they've done, the movement, the cameras, the audio, everything, the recording, putting it up live. Paul has a lot to do with technical stuff as well. Colt Barber, of course, behind the scenes. But Drake, Jack, Armstrong, Amelia, and CJ. And right now, Jack and Armstrong here, that we just lost Drake. He just walked out. He was going to go probably go home. He's been working most of the day as a student. And so it's great to have everybody as a part of what we're doing. We're now joined by John Machota, theathletic.com. John, when a team starts chirping, when there starts to be anonymous quotes or whatever, you can call it whatever you want, but what do you call it as far as what it's like today?
Yeah, it's not good for the team. I mean, it's one of those things that the biggest thing that stood out to me about that is the fact that, you know, I started covering the team when Jason Garrett took over. So all I've covered before Mike McCarthy on the NFL level is Jason Garrett. And say whatever you want about those teams, like there was never things that like this that got out. And it's interesting that that's already started and then it comes whatever, matter of days after their first loss, embarrassing loss, and that right after they lose their franchise quarterback. And it just seems like things are unraveling, to the point where it's like they play an awful Washington team that you're like, I could see them losing that game too. So it's like you sit there and you watch Monday night and you're like, is this rock bottom? It's like, I don't know if it's rock bottom. I think they might fall farther. There just seems a lot. This is as big as of a mess that I've been around since I started covering the Cowboys.
Yeah, John, it does. You're right. It does seem like there could be, an even further, tumble down the hole, so to speak. And part of the reason they never came unhinged like this under Jason Garrett is even in the bad years, they've never played this poorly over a stretch, ever.
No, they haven't. I mean, obviously there were the limitations that you really, you didn't really feel like they were going to make a Super Bowl run. You never really, whatever. But that there'd be an up year, a down year. In the end, you'd be somewhere around 500, but it was never really terrible. I would guess you'd say 2015 when Romo got hurt and had to go to, Matt Castle and, They won 4 games. So, I mean, I'll give you that 1 year, but for the most part, it just hasn't felt like it feels right now, where it just like there just seems like a big disconnect between the coaches and players, particularly on defense. And here's my thing: like there were several, we talked to Mike McCarthy today, and then Ezekiel Elliott, and then Sean Lee. Those were the players made available, and they obviously, they talked about how Mike addressed the team on those reports, and how he has an open door, and he'd rather you bring that stuff to him than to put it out there. And they were basically not acting like or talking like they weren't going to put much value into it. But at the same time, it's like with social media, where are the players that are coming out saying like that report's just completely false? Where are the ones coming out saying that like, no, there's no truth to that. We love these coaches. Like, I don't know who's putting that out there. Like, there's nobody that's really saying that what was said is not true. So that's my thing. Like, I feel like I see, I'm friends with Jane Slater at NFL Network who had that report, and I see some people like attacking her about this, and I'm just kind of like, I don't see anything about that. It doesn't seem like it's on point. If you don't believe that, then you must not be watching the games. Look at the way that defense plays. Does it look like a defense that seems to be on the same page with its coaching staff? I mean, it doesn't to me.
And Jane's well connected enough with that locker room that she would certainly get some blowback, or somebody would say something to her, you would think, if that report wasn't true. To your point, I know Zeke talked, and he apparently apologized to the team about the fumbling issues. What did you take away from what Zeke had to say?
Yeah, it is one thing. I know that this isn't going to make fans feel any better, but he's been extremely accountable, whether it be right after the game or today. He knows it's on him. I mean, he told the team that it was on him, that, that game was on him, that he lost that game because of those 2 fumbles. Obviously, it turned into, back-to-back touchdowns, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, the Cardinals that weren't doing much on offense start clicking, and they're up 14-0, and they never really looked back after that. And so he knows that it was on him. He said that he's gone back this week and got cut-ups, film cut-ups of every one of his fumbles in his career, and he's been watching those. He wouldn't share anything that he found on that. He didn't want to put that out there, but he's trying to do what he can. He knows it's an issue right now, and he knows teams are going to be, swiping at the ball. And so 5 fumbles in 5 games. I mean, that's you shouldn't have 5 fumbles in an entire season. And so he knows it's unacceptable, and it's unacceptable of him if he was like, the 15th or the 10th best player on the team. But like, especially with Dak going down, like he knows that he steps into even more of the spotlight as being it has to be one of the leaders of this team on and off the field, and to cost your team like that, like he did, you can tell it bothered him a lot. I'm interested to see how he plays against Washington, because he's obviously going to be very fired up, but the offensive line is going to be very limited going against the Washington defensive line that's been stockpiling high draft picks on their defensive line for a while. So I don't know how much he's going to be able to do on Sunday, but he definitely seems like he's motivated to kind of put this fumbling issue behind him.
I thought, you lose Tyron Smith, Lyle Collins, Zach Martin goes out with a concussion early on in that game. Yeah, they're a mess. Did Andy Dalton digress, or was that just what he was given? And what was the overall, what's been the thoughts about him and his game on Monday night?
Yeah, I hate to completely riff him on it, because that offensive line, especially right in the first quarter, you lose Zach Martin. It's like you just look around and you're just kind of like, what else can go wrong for this team, especially on the offensive line? And so he's playing behind Brandon Knight, who obviously suffered a knee injury in the game because he just had surgery yesterday on it, and he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. And then you got a guy in Connor McGovern that's coming in for Zach Martin, and McGovern hasn't even played in the game up until then. So, and then you got a rookie center. You got Connor Williams at left guard, who hasn't been, he hasn't played up to expectations. And then at right back, we got Terrence Steele. So the thing is that you just really got to see in that game that when you have an offensive line that can't consistently pick up blitzes and just give you consistent time in the pocket, even when they do, you're thinking, I don't know what's coming from my backside, and you're not playing with the same confidence. And that's what I saw to Andy Dalton. It was like he was never comfortable, even on the plays where they did block well. He never seemed comfortable back there. I never thought that he was going to have that type of a game. I thought, if anything, that with those receivers, like, I'm not saying that they were going to win, but I thought they would at least be able to score some points and put some long drives together. And when they weren't able to do that, it really made me think, like, I mean, just the value of Dak Prescott. Like, would it have been the same way with Dak? Like, I don't think so. And it certainly had you thinking this game certainly validates how good Dak Prescott is, and he's probably worth every penny.
Randy Gregory's back. Do you expect him to play, 15, 20 snaps?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, work him in on a rotation, rushing off that right end with Aldon Smith, and then on the left, and you can just keep Everson Griffin and DeMarcus Lawrence over there. It's like, you would think, I mean, there's got to be a game when, these standout pass rushers put it together and just have a dominant game where, they combine for, 5 or 6 sacks or something like that. And it hasn't happened. And so maybe this Washington team is one that they take advantage of. But you would think Randy Gregory would be a spark. He obviously, when he's played, that hasn't been an issue. He's produced. It's been staying eligible. So he's coming back. All the returns on everything everybody's seen in practice have been positive. So I think he can come in and make an impact right away. It's just a question of, is it enough of an impact for that defense to, get sacks and then more importantly, cause a turnover or two for as bad as the offense has been not taking care of the ball. I mean, it's like a broken record on that defense. They don't take the ball away at all.
Do you expect Sean Lee to make a return relatively soon? It seems like he's getting closer and closer, and how much of a spark do you think that could provide?
Yeah, it was interesting. Him talking today, explaining the surgery he had where they basically had to reattach like his abs to his pelvic bone. It just sounded like one of those type of things where you're like, you know what, Sean? maybe football, it was a good run. Let's just move on to coaching or something. But no, I mean, Sean's a different breed, so he's going to try and give it a go one more time. But it sounded like from what he said today that he's probably still a couple of weeks away. But I think it's huge to have him back. I mean, just from a leadership standpoint, a guy in the room that's been there for a long time, that is a voice that players in that locker room certainly respect. And so, it's going to be a huge positive to get him back. And he seemed to be in really, really good spirits, like really excited about the opportunity, despite, obviously being around a team that things aren't going very well. So I think that can only help the coaches and the players trying to adjust in this new system. Because, I mean, you look back, I mean, Sean was drafted to be a 3-4 middle inside linebacker. That's what he was playing when they first. I mean, he's played in all kinds of different systems, all the different linebacker positions. I don't think the transition will be very difficult for him. So, but I still think he's a couple weeks away.
Anything else? Thank you. Appreciate it, John. John Machota, Wednesdays at 5 o'clock in the Cowboys as they now move on to play at Washington coming up this weekend after the disastrous loss at home to Arizona. Coming up next, Kirk Bowles, Austin American statesman on everything UT, Baylor UT, what's happening with Texas in the eyes of Texas, and Tom Herman and the football team and more. Now even the band. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
If you are in the market for a new home or looking to sell your home, you need to call my friend Lance Donaldson at eXp Realty. He's a fantastic dude. He's going to get you taken care of straight up and down, no matter what it is. He's going to hear what you have to say about your house, what you're looking for in a dream home, and he's going to help you find it. He's a great guy to hang out with, and you're going to want that when you're looking for a house, because when you're going to spend a lot of time with someone. I might have looked at 35 or 40 houses, when I was looking for my home, and it took a long time, and I wanted to get it just right, and you're going to want to do that too. You can go to his website, lancedonaldson.exprealty.com, and look at the properties that he has listed. He's got great ones all over the area, McLennan County, Limestone County, all over the place. Or just give him a call, 254-214-3713, and let him guide you through the whole process. Again, that's 254-214-3713 for Lance Donaldson and the team at eXp Realty.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitschke Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitschke Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitschke Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitschke Group at 1-800-258-8302.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. And this football season, you need to stop by on game day for curbside pickup or stop by their tent next to Sikkim 365 at Brazos Parking for your pregame refreshment. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Ellinger lines up. Picked up, and that's your ball game. Trey Brown.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Live Guest VIP Hotline is sponsored by Stonewood Dental. We are all in this together.
Earlier today, I was on a podcast with Kirk Bowles and also Cedric Golden, both from the Austin American-Statesman. It's Baylor, Texas week. Texas after the off week, after getting the overtime thriller loss to Oklahoma. Baylor, of course, has been basically just shut down for what now seems like forever. Kirk Bowles joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. So, Kirk, what's the bigger story? UT's football team under 500 in the conference or the eyes of Texas right now? What's the most focused in Austin?
They've got a football team? I mean, I had no idea. I heard a rumor they might have a football team, but I think they haven't exactly done a good job controlling the narrative, because I think the eyes of Texas furor has just pushed everything to the side, and it's very unfortunate.
So where does the university go from here with that, now that the band doesn't want to play it, the players don't want to stand out for it? Is this the end for that song?
I truly don't think so. I mean, I've been told by people at the administration that they are keeping the song. And to me, when it comes to the band, just my opinion, to me, that's a line you don't cross. You know, if you don't want to play the alma mater of a school, why are you in that band? And I'll be honest with you, I'm try to be very sensitive and sympathetic to people's causes when they're treated unjustly. But I just, I've very much been
on the record as saying, I support keeping the eyes of Texas. And I'm not unlike Sam Ellinger. It means something to me. I graduated from there, as did my father in the 30s, and he was actually on the football team. And 3 of my brothers went to UT as well. So did my oldest son, and I've got nephews and cousins that went there as well. So it's got special meaning to me. And like I said, I'm trying to be sympathetic to people's causes and difference of opinion. But to me, it's not a racist song. It's a song that UT exes, alumni, players, coaches, who have always sung with pride and felt a closer bond to one another after doing so.
Kirk, just from a team perspective, I mean, with that, obviously in play, the feelings about the song and the players' feelings about it and whatnot. From a football perspective, how needed was that break after that Oklahoma loss, and what sense do you get from the team as far as just their feelings heading into this weekend against the Bears and kind of where spirits are at this point?
It's funny, Paul. I think a lot of people, teams and coaches and players, you lose, you want to get that loss out of your mouth immediately. And, they've lost 2 in a row now, counting the TCU game. And in this instance, it probably was a good idea for them to kind of step back and kind of reassess and try to correct the damage that they've had so far. But I'll be honest, guys. I mean, the players, that we've been privy to interview, and there haven't been many of them, say the team's unified. It's not fractured by any stretch of the imagination. But it seems to me that there probably is some division within the team, just because the difference of opinion as much as anything else. And protests, though the players and the coaches will and have, I think it's been a huge distraction. Taquan Graham, the kid from Temple who plays D-line for Texas, said as much. He said, I thought we were past this point. And clearly they're not, because the firestorm continues. So, yeah, I think it clearly has an effect on, this team's focus and probably its preparations as well.
Is it Ellinger's fault because he has to carry too much of the load, or is that Tom Herman, who just doesn't seem to ever have an offense where the running back is the featured person?
Well, that's the puzzling thing about this, Smokey. I mean, here's this offensive guru who helped, Urban Meyer win a national championship at Ohio State. And, that's kind of where he made his bones on offense. And he's had good quarterbacks. Lord knows they had plenty when he was at Ohio State. And he did with Greg Ward at Houston. And I don't think quarterback's the problem here. But like you said, I think he relies on Sam so much that it's kind of draining. And I think it allows defense to kind of focus on him. Their running game has really pretty much been stuck in the mud all year. They've had one running back. I think Keontae Ingram may have 89 yards against UTEP. They don't have a 100-yard rusher, after 4 games. And Sam's the leading rusher. I mean, he's got 60-plus yards a game. But, you can depend on him too much. And I jokingly asked Tom last week if they just chunk it all, go to the air raid. And he said, well, maybe we talk about that a little bit. But, I don't think we're going to see him throwing 60, 70 times a game. But that's where the improvement's got to come. And I think, Smokey, like you said on our podcast, the offensive line hasn't been the strong part of Baylor's football team so far, and nor has it been Texas. And they've got a lot of work to do up front.
Are the Sharks swimming around Tom Herman legitimately, or is that in all of our minds?
No, they're out there. They're out there, and I think they're probably nipping at his heels. The problem, guys, is that, people wonder around the country, it's like, when is Texas going to get its stuff together? And then there's one segment that says, well, they need to have patience. They got to have some stability. They can't keep changing coaches every 3 or 4 years. But, and everybody around Texas wants them to be back so much. But, and Sam declares they are back in New Orleans, and those words kind of come back to haunt him. And it's clear they're not back. And to me, that was always kind of a silly notion anyway. They're back when they win the Big 12 a couple times and win multiple double-digit victories every year. So, but yeah, I think it's real because I think a lot of the fan base has been lost, and given the controversy with the Eyes of Texas off the field, it only compounds it. So right now the fan base is livid, and you don't want them apathetic at all. You'd rather have them mad than not caring at all.
Very true. Kirk, where are they as far as injuries, potentially guys coming back, guys that might not be available on Saturday? How are the Longhorns health-wise?
Well, they're very closed-mouthed about that. I asked Mike Yurcich, the offensive coordinator, today about Jake Smith, who had a hamstring and aggravated it in the warm-ups against Oklahoma, and Brendan Schooler has also had some injuries, and he declined to answer that. And Jordan Whittington, I know you're familiar with him, the other slot receiver and running back, he's been out. He's hurt a hip flexor in the Oklahoma game, which is his first game back this year. And so he's definitely out for a couple of weeks, if not longer. So I don't think they're not decimated by any stretch of the imagination, but they've had some injuries in the receiver department mostly. Last year it was DBs, but I think more or less they're pretty healthy though.
Kirk, Paul wrote a column on SicEm365.com, and it's about Tom Herman and what seemed to be a pretty good match with Texas. But he is and does seem to have rabbit ears. He does seem to sometimes bark when he doesn't need to, because then he's acknowledging that somebody maybe has bothered him. It does seem as if he likes to throw out things that they do that are the most, from a P cup to whatever you want to call it.
P-chart, yeah.
Yeah, all that. Is he too sensitive, overly sensitive to be the head coach at a place where you can't be overly sensitive?
Well, Mac, almost patent being so sensitive when he was here. Things just bothered him because, Mac Brown was such a people person. He just liked people. And when people didn't like him or said or wrote bad things about him, it bothered him. I think Tom's got a little more crusty exterior. He's not a warm and fuzzy guy. He's a lot more like an Urban Meyer than he is a Mac Brown. So, I guess it's hard to block out all the noise and distractions here. It's like Texas seems to invent chaos. It just kind of follows this program around, it seems like. So, and the other thing I'd like to say about Tom is that, he was out front with his team as an advocate for the players during this Black Lives movement, and marched with the team to the Capitol, encouraged his players to speak out. So the bed that he lies in now is one of his own making, partly because these players have rebelled against the Eyes of Texas, and that's infuriated, a large number of alumni and ex-players as well. So he really can't backtrack on that. So he kind of put himself between a rock and a hard place a little bit, and I just don't know how he kind of gets back into good graces of fans right now.
Well, one of my other points in the article was that, look, some of the things are of Tom's making, absolutely, but some of them are the fact that the university has put this unreasonable expectation on a coach, no matter who it is, it's Tom Herman or whoever, that it might be impossible to ever reach expectations at the University of Texas unless they loosen their grip just enough.
Well, I would argue that because, they haven't won the Big 12 since 2009. And, we're talking Texas. They've got a few resources here. Austin, for all its political weirdness, is not the worst place to live. And players and athletes like to come to this school. So I don't think it's too much to ask that they win the Big 12 more than once a decade, or right now it's up to 11 years. And to have double-digit victories, and they're paying him, $6 million plus to do that. He's one of the top 10 highest-paid coaches in all of college football. So I don't think the expectations are unreasonable. I don't think Tom thinks they're unreasonable. But I think most of it just goes back to, okay, after the Orange Bowl or Sugar Bowl, they were so excited, and then they go 7-5. Before they beat Utah in the Alamo Bowl. And they said, okay, all right, well, that didn't turn out as well as we thought. But surely this will be the year, because Sam's the 4-year starter, and now you got more of your recruits in place. And then, lo and behold, Oklahoma loses 2 games and then you still lose to a flawed Oklahoma team. So I think just the bottom line, guys, the question is not now, when. And if he can't get it done now with what he has, when's it going to happen, if ever?
Kirk, thank you very much. Appreciate the invite to be a part of the podcast with Cedric and you. Appreciate your time today on Sikkim 365 Radio. Have fun.
Had a great time talking to you twice, okay?
Yep.
Y'all be careful and enjoy being with you.
That's Kirk Bowles. He's part of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award voter, as is Cedric Golden, the Austin American Statesman. Coming up next, Football Bob tries to break down as we look ahead to Texas and Baylor. Tomorrow at 5:30, Sam Bradshaw has something up on Sikkim365.com in the premium section about how Baylor will try to attack Texas, trends, this and that. That's up. He'll join us tomorrow at 5:30, and this is Sikkim 365 Radio. Items of the week at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Erie Drive in Waco. This is for this week through Saturday. For example, ring bologna, $5.50 a pound. Fresh Italian sausage, $3.99 a pound. Hot links, $3.50 a pound. Bacon ends and pieces, $2.99 a pound. And then the T-bone steaks at $8.05 a pound. Porterhouse steaks at $8.55 a pound. Chicken thighs at $1.25 a pound. And variety pumpkins available at $8.10 each. Items of the week at Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown old-fashioned grocery store. When you walk in the door, there's a butcher shop in the back. It's got seafood and pork and poultry, and, of course, their butcher shop that includes all the cuts of meat that you want. You can customize, order ahead of time, come pick it up. And then, of course, the bakery to the right, which you have fresh baked bread every day, fresh kolaches every morning, and then even pre-cooked meals that have very large portions. And on top of that, if you want cookies or cake or pies or things like that, they have that as well. And then up and down the aisles, from pasta to canned goods to, for example, box-type meals as well, and then treats, sweets, and all sorts of seasonings, and that's what they have. Along with, if you walk to the front door to the right, you have fresh cold beer and wine, along with soft drinks and much more. Waco Custom Marketplace, where you can get your meat orders custom made, custom cut, how you want them. For example, if the certain specific length or, thickness of steak, they'll do that for as well. The Bauer family's done an incredible job. You'll find their meat in all the various local grocery stores, or as many of them as you can imagine. Waco Custom Marketplace, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, 425 Lake Erie Drive in Waco. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Bird Culture Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culture Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culture Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new pre-owned Bird Culture Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership. Online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culture Ford.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Don Humidor, you're home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
Imagine how the players and coaches and you, the fans, are waiting for a Baylor football game, and you of course, hope for a result better than Morgantown. They have an opponent. They played Texas, and Football Bob is with us now, Sikkim365.com contributor, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio every Wednesday around 5:30. All right, so Bob, football, I got to call you Gary. It's just
sure.
When you look at what Baylor and what happened in West Virginia when the offense was a mess, they were hoping to have a full week the following week. They had a couple of days of practice. Aranda said they were really good practices. But do you think they've had enough time since they came back Sunday of this week to be ready to do something that was better than what we saw at West Virginia?
I think there's no doubt that missing those practices did not help. But then again, you can get a lot of good work done in a short amount of time if the kids are focused and they're really working hard. And I think that that offensive line, it really feels like a real responsibility that they need to play better. And I think that they've probably done some good work.
Gary, when it comes to Texas, should Baylor try and copy last year's game plan, or is the offense different enough to where they have to adjust it?
Well, I think that you always adjust your game plan from year to year. It looks like to me that we have a game coming up where we have strength against strength and we have weakness against weakness. Baylor's defense is out of sight and Texas' offense is pretty strong. On the other hand, Baylor's offense has not been lighting everything up, and Texas has been scored on almost at will. And so, I think it's a pretty even game.
What were your initial impressions and popping on the UT tape? Like, what are some things that stood out to you both positively and or negatively?
Well, you got to look at Sam Ehlinger. I mean, that guy is a competitor. He's a bigger version of Charlie Brewer. He does almost everything right. He's probably not as accurate as Charlie, but he's probably maybe a more physical runner, certainly. And maybe as good a runner, if not better, than Charlie. And so, those things jump out at you. One other thing that jumps out at you is what we talked about last week, that Texas really doesn't utilize their running backs. And Baylor has two dynamite running backs, although the last game against West Virginia, you probably didn't notice that.
No, and you always wonder, are one of these five-star guys going to go off like Balaj Robinson or Bijan Robinson, or Ingram, who had the long run against Baylor in that. what was supposed to be running out the clock, of course, last year that was silly and
Right.
escape from them. So as a guy that watches them, Ellinger's dynamic. At the same time, he has his flaws as well. Is it better to make him run more or pass more?
I'll take my chances on him passing. Now, I think the coverage that Baylor has is going to be tested, no doubt about it. But I'll take my chances on him passing, and I would make sure that I had a very fast linebacker spying him so that he could not get away clean.
If you take somebody to spy on him, let's say, I don't know if you want to use Terrell Bernard to do that, but if you take somebody to spy on him, does that open you up for something that becomes a weakness on defense?
Absolutely. I mean, a guy's not going to be covering that hook zone, or you're going to be forced into man-to-man or something like that. And those kinds of things can be taken advantage of. I don't think that you can go into the game saying we're just going to use Terrell Bernard as the guy that's going to spy on Ellinger. I think you have to vary it, just like you would against an option team. You would always have somebody different taking the quarterback so that you would not give them a consistent read. Well, you do the same thing with spying on the quarterback.
What kind of things defensively does Texas do well?
Oh, I think that they're pretty decent in coverage most of the time. They have had some really bad mistakes in their deep end, in their coverage, though. But I think that they're pretty good defensively in their pass coverage. Their defensive front is pretty good. I mean, they are physical and they play well. But the thing that happens is that people just get creases in there. I think they have an issue with people not taking responsibility for their gap. Their gap control is a little bit iffy at times. And, boy, when you have that, all it takes is just, a little bit of opening for a great back to really take advantage of that.
How do you see, outside of a Treston Ebner breaking free or a John Lovett breaking free potentially, how do you see this Baylor offense different at all from maybe what we've seen the last couple of games or these first two games, and how do you see them attacking this Texas defense and their weaknesses?
Well, I think that Oklahoma gave a pretty good template when they came out and started taking just possession passes, taking advantage of people that are responsible for deep cover or man-to-man all over the field where they are hesitant to really get up on a receiver. I think that you can dink and dunk early on and get the ball off on time and be pretty successful. Now, there's going to come a time, especially film, where they've been doing a lot of that and they haven't been going deep, that you're going to have to test them out vertically. And I think Texas is one of those teams that you can have an opportunity to be successful when you test them vertically.
And it seems like Ellinger's not taking as many shots himself down the field. The crossing routes have worked, the slants, whatever you want to call them, the post. That seems to have been one of their best. There was a time it just seemed like they used to throw it up on the sideline with their big, tall receivers and hope there was maybe contact and come up with a pass interference call. He takes a shot, but is he throwing the ball as deep as he used to?
Doesn't seem to be. I think you're right on that. I think that they're doing a lot more crossing routes. They do have an inexperienced receiving core compared to what they had over the last couple of years. And although they have a couple of kids that are really good size, they don't seem to really go get the ball as well as some of the ones that they had in the past couple of years. And so those two things really make you less willing to just throw that thing up like TCU does sometimes and make it a jump ball.
Yeah, Colin Johnson was one, although last year he was not as effective, and a couple of others as well. They got some size at the wide receiver position.
Well, there was pretty good coverage on Johnson last year, and so he didn't get very much.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, and there's no Devin Duvernay either. No burner guy to throw it up to down the field either. Bob, how do you just kind of see this game playing out? I mean, from a competitive standpoint, I know what you're saying is that, Baylor, if they execute properly, it has a chance to win this football game. Texas is clearly the favorite going into this thing, but what's the sort of feel that you get for the matchup itself and how close of a matchup it potentially is?
Well, if Baylor had had 2 really good weeks of practice and they had really been able to focus in with their top group and really get them honed together, I would think that Baylor would have a real advantage going into the game just because of the way that Texas defense has been playing lately. But since that workout schedule was a little bit troublesome and iffy, and they didn't even know who was going to be able to play until maybe Sunday of this week, that makes it a little bit tougher. And, of course, playing down in Austin is always a difficult thing. It always seems like the calls go their way down in Austin, whereas up here it's a little bit more evenly called game. So I would say that, Las Vegas probably has it right, that Texas is probably the favorite. But I think that there's a real opportunity for Baylor to put it together and really play their best game this year.
Do you see right now, based on what we saw against Kansas, and again, West Virginia was just bad. Offensively, things didn't go well. Brewer seemed to do better when the game got frenetic. He had the bad pick at the end, of course, in overtime that ended up basically all but sealing that game. Do you see anything that would, if you were a coach, would you have other options this week if in case the Baylor offense does not start well with Charlie?
I think that it has to be a little bit more competitive going into this game. I think that the other guys, if Charlie really struggles again, I think the other guys deserve a chance. I am a Charlie guy. I love the way he plays. I love the fact that he will compete till the final gun. And that's just awesome to me. So I am for him. I want him to be successful. But if, there are difficulties again, and if we're getting interceptions again and not taking care of the football, missing some reads, if those kinds of things are happening again, I think you have to give the other kid a chance.
Anything else, guys? Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Football Bob with us on Wednesdays at 5:30 to break down some things, and hopefully next week we'll have more evidence instead of maybes. Maybe Houston. Maybe Oklahoma State.
I mean, that's the thing is, again, we haven't seen them play in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like, everything that can be said about West Virginia has been said at this point, and we have no idea. I mean, like he was saying, if they had these 3 weeks to actually practice and work on things and be in meetings and do all of that, that'd be one thing. Instead, they basically got all of their extra time wiped out completely, and what meetings they had were virtual, and there wasn't a lot of working out until, this past weekend. So, man, I don't know what to expect. I mean, they could be rusty as all get out, and it would be totally understandable when you haven't played, and as long as they played, or they could be sharp as a tack, and they're going to have to be sharp. I don't expect UT to play a perfect game. But, they're clearly drumming something up. They're at home. They need a win desperately. They don't want to fall even further below 500, and they're breaking out the uniforms for the first time, in like 80 years, the white uniforms at DKR. I mean, there's all that going on. I mean, you've got the chance to to drive the knife into Tom Herman, basically. But you had that chance against Charlie Strong, and you didn't take advantage of it. You did against Mac Brown, but I think they match up actually pretty well. I would lean Texas still just based on what we've seen, but, I mean, they've not done anything that's just so impressive to me. Outside of, like, Joseph Osai and Summa Ellinger, like, there's not really anything that makes you go, oh, man, they have no chance here.
Well, I think the biggest thing you have to do is, when you get to, if it's a close game, which I expect it to be, if you get down to the last, 5 minutes of the game, don't let Sam do what he does in the last 5 minutes. Keep him to be the first 50 minutes or so, Sam, where he's not been that efficient of a passer, for whatever reason that is, whether that's him or the receivers or the offense or what have you. You just keep him, keep him in the box, or what did Jalen Petry say? Keep him in the hoop. Keep him in the hoop.
Yeah.
Keep him in the hoop. And then if you can keep him in the hoop, then their offense is really limited because Tom Herman, they're not going. They don't trust the running backs. It's very clear that they don't. It's very, very clear that they don't. So if you can continue to, feed off that mistrust of them and force the game to go through the one channel and make him have to do everything, eventually he's going to make a mistake.
Yeah, and what you cannot do is let this thing get early on into a shootout. I don't know if I'm not saying Baylor's not capable of doing that, but after what we saw at West Virginia, that's one of those where you hope to dummy the game down a little bit. Maybe you get to the second quarter, it's 10-7 or, and who knows?
I get what you're saying, but this UT team averages like 40-plus points. I mean, they lead the nation in scoring on average, so you're going to have to score points. So
I'd like to know how much do they score in the last 8 minutes of a game.
Well, I mean, it was the last 8 minutes versus Oklahoma plus an extra however many seconds.
Overtimes,
plus 4 overtimes,
Yeah.
so that's a bit misleading. And they also played UTEP, and they just beat the dog, mess out of them. So that was like a 60-something to whatever it was. So that's a little bit misleading. But on paper, they are, I believe, the nation's leading scoring offense on average. And so they're going to score some points. Like, I don't think they're going to, the Baylor defense is going to limit them to a couple of touchdowns. I think they're going to probably say like at least 28 is what we're going to need to get. At least 28 to win this game. And can the Baylor offense do that? I don't know, because we haven't seen enough, and what we saw the last time wasn't good, as we've said ad nauseum. So they got to play sharp, especially up front. And some guys, like as I said earlier at the start of the show, even if the block isn't there or the pass is a little off, you got to make that play regardless, because it feels like one guy doesn't make a play or there's a drop, and the next thing you know, there's a penalty, and then Charlie's getting sacked, and it's just 3 and out, and you're donezo. And they can't afford to have throwaway drives. They can't afford to not be on the field very much as an offense.
You can get to the 28-30 level, block a punt. And Texas
That's
has
how
had
they won
2 of
last
those blocked.
year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how they won games.
Make the 2 field goal opportunities, or if you have 2 or 3 field goal opportunities to help add on or get closer, score a couple of touchdowns, maybe even have to set up a short field by the defense. That's how you would think you can get to 30. With all due respect, until we see that from the offense under this new offense, with the chance to get the offensive line reps, now that they have Burton at right tackle, will that make a difference or not? We don't know. That, to me, is how you can get to 30. And that. I would like to say, no, go out and score 4 touchdowns and a couple of field goals. I don't know if they can, even against this defense.
Yeah, I do think that one of the things early on is like, as different as things may be eventually for this team, they need to just be who they've been. I mean, I know that we all want to see who they're going to be under Aranda eventually, but they just have to kind of live in the moment. And it kind of just based on COVID, it kind of has to be how they were a couple years ago under Matt Rule, with whatever it's going to take to win and kind of Indiana Jones it out there, do that. As you figure yourself out.
Somebody needs to step up and be Denzel Mims then.
Yeah.
Because nobody has, and they're clearly missing him. And, the last thing that I just want to see is them go out there, and this is what drives me nuts about the Baylor offense, whether it's, the West Virginia game or it's the last couple of seasons, is just the amount of time they go out there, and it's just like no-nothing drive, and then a scoring drive, and then 4 no-nothing drives that take barely any time off the clock and last 6 plays before they punt. And then you all of a sudden look up and you're like, holy cow, we wasted 8 drives, and now we need 2 touchdowns to tie this game. And then they go score 2 touchdowns. It's like, no, start early and don't find yourself in that hole. That's the problem they run into, and they were able to magically get out of that hole nearly every single time last year. I don't think that's the same team this year that you can just rely on that.
Brewer mentioned that today. He mentioned we've got to start faster, and you're right. They had time. Last year they could play that way because the defense was so really, really that good. If they could play that kind of defense, which, again, they've played KU and then West Virginia, who's not going to put too much up offensively either. By the way, I did say this to Kirk Bowles and Cedric Golden. I think Terrell Bernard's the best linebacker in the country. I know that sounds homerish. The Penn State guy's not playing. I don't know if anyone else is better. I'm sure there was, but I did tell him that the offensive line was a mess, but Terrell Bernard, at least it has been a mess. That might change Terrell Bernard, the best linebacker, not in the conference, but in the country. For Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoke, thanks to Armstrong, Jack going full throttle with us today. Thanks as well to Drake from being a part of it earlier, and Colt Barber doing his magic as well. I'm David Smoke. Thank you for listening and watching whenever you do, however long it might be. And good night on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas. They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new Lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.